Brittany, thank you. Governor Tony Evers signed a bill into law prohibiting student strip searches in Wisconsin schools.
Legislation received bipartisan support and now bans school officials from strip searching students. It also redefines what a strip search is. In their first order update, Samantha Cavalli tells us why lawmakers hope these changes prevent future issues.
The new law comes in response to an incident Action 2 News first alerted you to at the Suring School District in January 2022. Former Superintendent Kelly Casper and a school nurse ordered 6 teenage girls between the ages of 14 to 17 to strip down to their undergarments, conducting a search looking for a vape pen. Several students reported feeling uncomfortable, violated, with no choice to say no.
There should not be a situation in which any student, female or male, should feel like they may be subject to a strip search by one of their principals, janitors, teachers.
I think everybody was pretty surprised that any school employee really could order children into their underwear, and that without a warrant or anything, and that is kind of strange that it still even was something that existed today.
State Senator Eric Wimberger and State Representative David Steffen co-authored the bill and worked with the O'Connell County Sheriff to change the state's legal definition of a strip search. The former definition called it a search that would expose students' private areas. In the 2022 case, Casper had the students strip down to their undergarments.
But the way it was done was very specific and particular to be in compliance with the law at the time. And it was a loophole. So to be able to do those things needed to be changed.
Because of this, charges against the former Suring superintendent were dismissed. Casper was placed on administrative leave before the school board accepted her resignation. Steffen says the new law extends the definition of strip search to include searches requiring students to strip down to their undergarments, making it a more chargeable offense. He tells me this is a positive step forward to protect our kids in schools.
But for those 6 teenage girls, they never received justice through the criminal justice system because this law did not exist. So we're going to ensure that this is in place so that no longer in the future will there be an opportunity for someone to escape justice if they're involved with this type of activity.
We reached out to the Suring School District for comment on the signing of the bill, but have not heard back. Samantha Cavalli, Action 2 News.